Hey there, and welcome back to the episode of A Cup of Joe. My name is Joe Escobedo, and with me on the show today is Nisha Goklaney. Thanks so much for being on the show, Nisha.
Glad to be here.
So Nisha is the marketing director at Sage, and we're going to find out a little bit more about kind of what you do. But first off, I really want to, highlight something you've been doing on LinkedIn, which I thought was very interesting. We just spoke about it, is in terms of the unique drawings you've been putting out. You shared kind of the inspiration behind that. Would love to hear what got you started.
Yeah, sure. I have to say, so thanks for having me on the show. I've been following your work as well, so quite a big fan. So thank you for that. And I also appreciate that you're constantly encouraging me, which is great. I'd say the inspiration for it was really about, 2 months ago, I did the AltNBA. And for people that don't know, that's Seth Godin's version of a condensed MBA, if you will. So we condensed a whole curriculum that normally spans a year or 2 years into a 1-month leadership program, which is quite full on, but to scale high potential individuals up. And then coming out of that, like one of the things that we did with the AltNBA was we shipped every day. So Seth Godin is big about just shipping every day. You get a prompt in the morning and you ship it. You work together with a group of classmates, or you work by yourself and you just ship it, right? It doesn't matter if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And then after the AltNBA, I kind of missed that aspect. And I think in some ways I've turned to LinkedIn and shipping something every day. And so the inspiration is really to pay it forward, to help more younger career women and to help younger career people that often reach out to me, but in a scalable manner. And the design itself actually came from somebody I learned, Karina Stolz from LinkedIn. She does visual images, and I got to seeing one of her drawings and I just asked her and I said, hey, what do you do? And she said, I use Procreate and Apple Pencil, and that was it. So I started using the tool. I'm quite a novice, like I said to you, but I'm appreciating all the love I get.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I'm very jealous because I have zero design skills whatsoever. So I always see the beautiful drawings. I'm like, oh, they're so cool. It's so concise and to the point. And I think that's one of the reasons, part of one of the reasons why they become so popular on the platform is, one, it's a very unique. You don't see many drawings. And two, they're very nicely done. So you can tell there's a clear message behind it. It's not some doodling. You've really thought out what you're doing. So kudos to you on, doing it. I think consistency as well. Like I say, if you do it every day, that's incredible. Especially with everything else you got on your plate. So once again, very nicely done. And you mentioned the AltNBA. This is something I reached out to you previously because I'm developing my own online courses. And I asked you, okay, what are some of the top educational resources you found recently? And you mentioned AltNBA. What inspired you to even take part in that?
Yeah, look, it's, there was a lot of things going on, right? I think I was at a place in my career where I was the head of product marketing. I had been in that role for about 2 years now. And one of the things I learned very early on at American Express was they had a concept of time and role, right? So they really believe that after about 2 years, if you're, at a director level, it's time to move and it's time to do something different and restart the clock, if you will. And they almost counted on that for longevity for employees. So I was hitting that point and I was really just looking to level up, to see more clearly, if you will, because I do think, it's important to be a lifelong learner. It's important to constantly grow and learn from others and to have more resources. And quite frankly, like being a working mom, I don't think I had read a book in a long time. So it was, all of that put together. And I said, look, I really need to take some initiative in learning. And COVID hit the same time, which was completely not planned. But that was the reason for getting into the AltNBA. And I'm just so glad I did it. I'm a huge, huge fan.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out myself. It inspired me. And I think it's one thing in speaking with so many successful, entrepreneurs, business leaders, CEOs, presidents, one thing that consistently comes up is that, lifelong learning principle. I think even, I was speaking to the president of a company last week, and he was telling me, I'm very active in terms of attending other CEO roundtables. I read biographies. I do all these things to learn. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool because you're pretty much at the pinnacle of, your specific industry, but yet every day you try to learn something new, which I think is very commendable. And one of the reasons I think we do what we do is just to, you know, upskill people to take them to the next level and just broaden their skill set. So once again, I'm definitely gonna check out the AltNBA because it sounds very cool. And
Oh, absolutely. I can't say enough about it. And you know what? I have to say, like, since then, I got a promotion at work. It's, you know, work sponsored it, which was also really, really nice of them. And like, I've just found my tribe, you know, and
yeah,
just it was 100 people, and you had 20 people in your specific cohort, and you just got so close to them that even post the class, we kind of have a little master class now where we get together every fortnight. Um, and we hold each other accountable, you know, and we talk about commitments, we talk about what we're doing, but it's just such a diverse set of people, you know, writers, people that are experts in, you know, PR, in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's just, it broadens your mind,
mhm.
and also across geographies.
Yeah, no, I love that you've carried it through. I think that's one of the big testaments to good education is something that you actually put into practice and you carry through. So I love that you guys have your own kind of, you know, mini master classes post that. Those are very, very cool stuff, actually.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to find out more about is you mentioned you come from a product and also a business development. You have some business development experience as well, which is quite rare for a marketer. A lot of the marketers you see, they come from either comms or they come marketing. So how do you think your background or experience in, say, product management, product marketing, as well as business development has helped you in your current role?
Sure. So I think the most important thing that it's taught me is just empathy, right? So uh, being able to, when I started my career, I was a product manager, you know, and what I did there day in and day out was product requirements, business requirements, technical documents, queuing things,
Yeah.
you know, bringing actually the hardcore tech to market. And then, you know, I've had the opportunity to be a consultant and understand different businesses. I've had then the opportunity of going into marketing where it was all about acquisition and how do you bring in new customers.
Mm.
And then at American Express, you know, I had 3 different roles, spanning from product to marketing and then business development, where we were working with world-class organizations like Emirates, for example, to bring new partnerships to life. So it's, you know, how do you have that synchrony? And I think what it teaches you is empathy. It teaches you how different viewpoints and different skill sets are important again to meet with an outcome, right? What's necessarily the way you're thinking from a marketing perspective, it's not the only driver. You've got to understand different viewpoints in order to get to a really good outcome. And it helps me day in and day out understand, you know, when my sales guy is saying something and saying nope, you know, vehemently opposing something, I know why,
Yeah.
right? And I know, you know, that he's in the cold face of a customer and this is probably why he's saying why. So it just gives you a better sense of appreciation and empathy for those around you. And I think it also, that T approach, right? The breadth and depth helps you understand ultimately how to be a business owner or an entrepreneur.
That's a very good point. I think it's some keyword that keeps popping up in a lot of these interviews is empathy. And we've talked about empathy towards, you know, customers and partners, but I think you bring up a very good point in terms of empathy for your fellow team members, particularly marketing, sales, and, you know, all the companies that consult. There's always some kind of, you know, they tend
Yeah.
to butt heads. And it's not that, you know, either party is right or wrong. It's that you rightly said, sometimes either party, if you're a salesperson, you haven't done marketing before, or you're a marketer, you haven't done sales before, it's very difficult for you to empathize and really understand what is it they're going through. And I think that's why a lot of different organizations really struggle when they're trying to create sales collaterals. Marketing is creating sales collaterals, and they're just handing it off to them without understanding, you know, how is it going to impact them, or how is it really going to help them, you know, close more deals or do things that are going to matter to them. Otherwise, you know, salespeople are very much focused on hitting their quota. If they're not, you know, doing that, they're like, I don't have time for this. So I think the fact that you have been in that position, you're like, look, this is how it's going to help you so and do, you know, so and so, I think is incredibly smart. And I love that you have taken that opportunity to transition into so many different roles. You have such a broad perspective that it absolutely makes sense now.
Yeah. You know, I think it just grows your appreciation again. I mean, I don't think I planned it that way, but it's just I've fallen into roles that ultimately, um, have helped me grow and helped me learn a different skill set. And sometimes it's taught me what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at, right? So, but at the end of the day, it really helps you drive that business acumen, if you will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one thing that you are quite passionate about is kind of building these high performance teams. Well, I guess it's whether it's marketing and sales. So what is your process for that? I mean, for anyone who's watching and wants to know kind of how to take their team to the next level, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so actually, what I will say is, for me, it's very simple. It's I need to make sure that my team, I mean, you can't do things yourself. It's all about your team, and it's all about who you surround yourself with. And it's about empowering your team and making sure that they know that they're important to you, and that their job, and they know what their goals are and how their goals actually ladder up into the broader picture of what the organization is trying to drive. So one of the things I think that we've done actually at Sage quite recently is, with COVID, my managing director is actually now trying to, help coach us as well on an ongoing basis. And how do you manage through a crisis? So
Mm.
every Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, she's a Gallup coach. So every Thursday we meet all the managers virtually. There's about 40 or so of them, I think, on the call. And we go through one fundamental about employee engagement. So like, for example, at work, we have the opportunity to do the best work that we can every day. Or in the last 7 days, I received recognition or praise for doing something good at work, right? And we take that theme and then we talk about it. We talk about how each one is trying to do it. Each one can do it better in our organization. And I think what that helps with is just reflection and bringing some of these things top of mind, right? So it helps me as an individual then say, oh gosh, have I in the last 7 days, said this to my employee, or given feedback to my team,
Mm-hmm.
or told them when they're doing an outstanding job, so they're getting real-time feedback. So I think it's that, and just leaning into the EQ. It's basic, right? You're a human. It's the same thing that drives you. You want feedback, you want love, you want empathy, you want to know your driving purpose and creating impact. The same rules apply to your team as well.
Mm. No, once again, a really good points. I think the first one was kind of tying it back to their own career ladder. If they see, the career progression in that path, they're more likely to be inspired and stay motivated. And another thing that you mentioned is the weekly kind of catch-ups to understand more about employee engagement, which I haven't really heard about before. I think usually when people think about employee engagement, it's like, their quarterly, appraisals and things like that, where you're forced to, rate or review them. But being more proactive, I think, in, giving them feedback, giving them encouragement on a regular basis, and then just talking about that. I think we do that in my company to some extent. In a slightly different manner. So every Friday, we'll have an afternoon catch up where we try to share our key learnings, our biggest key learnings from the week. And it doesn't have to be something that's, professional, like, I sold this, whatever it was. But sometimes team members have side hustles. So one of our team members has a little bakery, and she sells, brownies and cookies at Bazaar. And I was like, tell me what that experience was like. It's very different from what we're doing, in our day to day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think people enjoy that. They enjoy kind of sharing the things that, inspire them, and, sharing their key learnings. And as a result, we all get to learn as a team as well, see it from different perspectives. Because a lot of times you get very bogged down in the day to day. But when you hear different key learnings, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way. Or, that's something I could apply to what I'm doing as well. So I think those regular catch-ups can definitely help, like I said, in terms of employee engagement. I think now is a tough time with everyone working remotely. And this is something I've been managing teams remotely for a couple of years, but this is like full on remotely, that I guess the question is, how do you keep people motivated, and engaged during this time? Because I've met with a couple people recently, and they're like, I've never met my colleagues. I joined the past 3 months. I've never met them. So I know a couple people who have done that. So it's really difficult. How do you build a rapport with people, what you haven't seen in the office in, say, 3 to 4 months?
Yeah, there's a lot of people virtual onboarding. What I'd say is, what we do is, for my team, is we catch up twice a week. right? So we have a Monday morning catch up. And I think that's really, really nice to just bring everybody back from the weekend, kind of touch base on how your weekend went.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of a fun banter there, but then also set them up for, all right, what's going on? Like, what are your top 3 focus areas this week? So I think what that does is very nicely like ground you and almost help you think about, all right, be mindful of how you start your week. So we do that. What's also really good is these meetings are very short and sharp, right? So they're 20 minutes. And it's more of a stand up, but it's just to make sure we're checking in. Everybody knows how the other person's doing. Everybody knows how what I'm working on versus what you're working on, and then where those overlaps are, right? Because there's quite a few bits. Because they work on the same product segments or they work on the same customer segments, so everybody knows and it's ticking in time. And then we, on occasion, like I think last week, no, 2 weeks ago, I had 2 employees that were celebrating a work anniversary. So we all got on the phone and we had a virtual happy hour. I sent cupcakes to everybody's house, and that was a little bit of a surprise. So we all ate cupcakes together, and we all just, had a fun hour session, talking about our favorite moments at Sage, talking about, what else did we talk about? Dogs, cats, kids were all welcome on the phone. So it was a little bit of fun. I think I posted about it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to do things like that just to keep people engaged, motivated, and energized. Yeah.
I think it's a very good point, and something that we've been trying to experiment with. Well, so I gave one of my colleagues the task of creating a game for us. So like something like this, because you're right. We do this similar kind of catch ups like that, but it's usually like work related. So what are your objectives for this week, or what is your goals for this week? But just taking the time to have like, more informal catch ups, even via this, can be a nice way, because you know what, a lot of times you miss that human interaction. And if you're just at your home working your little home office, or in your kid's room, like it's difficult to get that.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel like we've actually connected a lot more working from home, because it's become a lot more informal, a lot more casual. Like we text each other, and we're on Teams all the time and messaging each other. Also, we're going through strategic planning for the next year. So I can't do a plan without my team, right? Yeah. So it's everybody feeding into the same Google document. It's everybody on Teams. We have, team chats. So we've actually gotten very close, I have to say.
No, I think, I think we've been trying to do the same as well. So I think it's great. And you mentioned now is like the planning season. I know everyone is kind of in the same kind of heads down planning. I've spoken with different executives, and some executives are like, our plans are like, obviously COVID has impacted different organizations different ways. Some are like, our plan, where we usually do an annual plan, is now like, what can we get done this month kind of thing. Yeah. So how are you balancing those short-term kind of immediate challenges with kind of the longer-term growth opportunities?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I have to say, we had to pivot. We had to pivot 180 degrees when COVID hit with our marketing plans, right? And it all became then very, very quickly. Like, it was like watching the movie Unwhale. We didn't know how long it's going to be. We didn't know how severe it's going to be, the scale of it. And it was just, rolling your sleeves up and just rolling with the punches almost, right? But we were able to come out of it. So I think what Sage has done is actually, and now sitting back, has fundamentally changed how we market. We've been focused on the customer 100%. And we've been focused, we're also a partner business. So we're focused on the customer, and it's just about driving education, understanding what they need in this time. So they need to work from home. They have changes in payroll and taxes, and how do we help with that? Understanding what our partners need. So again, our partners don't have marketing budgets, or marketing budgets have been cut. So how can we actually create and scale and democratize marketing for them? So it's really just, marketing has become almost in service to our customers and in service to our partners, and we've had to change. Right. So I think with the planning, what we are now doing is, going back to your question, is we are assuming that has worked really well for us, like just driving value without a commercial, selfish need, if you will, for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we're doing more of that into FY21, right? And that's the big plan. It's to continue with customer virtual events, customer webinars, to continue pumping in more money to enable our partners to market for free, and to basically turn each of our partners into a marketing shop. So that's what we're focused on.
No, I mean, that's great to hear. I was just on a call about, 10 minutes ago on another tech company who's focusing on channel partners and supporting them on that. I'd love to get your thoughts, in addition to, obviously pumping money into supporting them. What are some of the things that you guys do, whether it's like education or toolkits or like ongoing support? What are some of the ways in which you work with your partners?
Yeah, sure. So it's we've actually launched a new platform. It's called Sage Advance in the Asia region. And what that really is that we're taking all our creative assets, so landing pages, home pages, display banners, ebooks, infographics, webinars, PowerPoint decks, all kinds of assets, and we're bundling them together into toolkits. So we'll say we'll have one theme, and we'll have 7 assets, a second theme, and 7 assets by product segment. And we're doing enablement sessions. So we've just done 2 enablement sessions, just getting into the one-on-one coaching, if you will, because essentially our partners are small, and they've either had very small marketing budgets or existing marketing budgets, and they don't have dedicated marketing resources. So we're really training them step by step and like holding their hand into how can you use these assets. And the way we've created them is that they're actually customizable. So they're last mile customizable, if you will. So they can put their own brand on it. They can change around some of the words, if they're vertical focused, for example. And it's really helping, right? So I'm already seeing on LinkedIn some partners starting to use it. And that's really just very gratifying, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up another good point. I think a lot of companies create the assets and then just say, hand it to their partners. But I love that you guys are taking it one step further and really taking those one-on-one calls, those group calls, and saying, here's how you can actually implement it. In terms of the toolkits, I think it's another good idea. How do you break those up? So this is something I was recommending to a client, like breaking it up by, by geography, by market, for example, by industry, by functional, like prospects role. How do you guys break up those themes or those toolkits?
Yeah, so we're breaking it up really by topic, right? So we're understanding what the customer is looking for. So like they need to work from home. How can we enable them to work from home?
Got it.
They need to, we offer payroll software. The Singapore and the Malaysia government has offered a lot of subsidies, if you will, there, right? So with the job support schemes, our product is now offering ways that a payroll professional can easily calculate and forecast the savings. So it's very topical to specific customer segments. And yeah, so it's, sharing. You can't just land a platform and then tell the partners go fish. You've kind of got to teach them how to fish, and do that one-on-one consultation. So it's very time intensive, but we certainly want to try it out and do it, at least for our focused, premium partners, and see where that takes us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've seen it work across multiple industries. We do it with financial services and tech too. And the more they feel loved, the more they feel like they're upskilled and empowered, the more they're likely to sell on your behalf and have a mutual beneficial partnership. So I think it makes sense. And there's one last thing I want to get your thoughts on. You talked about education, really focusing on education. What are some of the educational pieces? You talked about webinars and things like that, but what are some of the pieces that have worked, quite well for you recently?
In terms of to my customers?
Yeah, to the customers, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I have to say it's bringing them the webinars and the virtual events, and also bringing to them other folks in their industries, and connecting them with them, right? So if I am in a manufacturing industry, for example, and I'm doing smart manufacturing, sometimes small businesses, feel like they're on an island by themselves. So if you can connect them with other people in that industry and, bring it like a panel discussion, etc., where they're hearing that, oh yeah, this other person has, these are their challenges. These are how they're overcoming it. It helps them feel all of a sudden not so alone, if you will.
Mhm.
So we're really just focused on two things. It's keeping them, giving them webinars and virtual events and education around topics that we know and challenges they're experiencing,
Mhm.
and also helping them understand others that are experiencing these challenges. And we've seen, again, great results. Even on our website, we're seeing traffic increase organically by about 35%, 40%. And that's just by virtue of hosting these webinars and then putting them up on our site, having them on demand. Yeah, it's just working really, really well for us.
Nice. I think you bring up a couple of different points that I want to just reemphasize. The first one is helping them understand that it is an opportunity to meet the fellow peers, even if it's virtually. I think a lot of organizations think of webinars as just an opportunity to push a message or push kind of just one-way communications. But I love that you're thinking about it in terms of, okay, here's how we connect you with someone else in your space or a complementary space. So really unlocking those opportunities by facilitating that network. And another thing you mentioned, which is really good, is taking some of those webinars and making them on demand. So I think a lot of organizations don't really fully leverage a lot of the assets they've created. So they'll run a webinar and then they may send an email to people who attended, they may not, and then that's the end of it. So there's no kind of like, post key takeaways on social. There's no kind of on-demand landing page like you guys have done. So I think it's a good point for anyone who's taking the time, because they're not easy to do. It takes time to plan them out and run them and market them and things like that. So really getting the most out of your assets, I think, is another good lesson for anyone watching.
Yeah, huge. Extend the mileage as much as you can. I mean, that's what we're doing even with the partner platform, right? Then we're taking it to our partners and saying, here's content for you. And then they're extending it to their networks as well. So to any marketer, I would say take that content piece and then slice and dice it and run the mileage as much as you can. Yeah.
Absolutely. So like I said, really, really good points, Nisha. I'm really glad we were able to catch up. This last question is, how can people get in touch with you to find out more about what you do?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn. Certainly on LinkedIn. I'm trying to be more active there. And one of the things I was telling you earlier, I'm trying to do on LinkedIn is just, I feel like I've benefited so much from in my early career from having really good mentors and sponsors that have helped me actually uncover places and potential in myself that I didn't see. So I do mentor one-on-one people and women in early careers, but this is kind of my way to scale it to a larger extent. So yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always open to learn, so always teach me as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And if you're watching, check out her drawings too, because they're super cool. Please do connect with her on LinkedIn. So thank you so much, Nisha. I learned a lot today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. It's been fun.
All right. My pleasure. And if you're watching this and you enjoyed today's interview, please feel free to share it with anyone who might find it helpful. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.